Welcome to the show. You're very formal today.
Now, it's never been a better time to be an Asian, a Southeast Asian producer and filmmaker.
The world is a little different now, especially in terms of filmmaking. There are challenges, especially regarding funding and financing.
I tell them, okay, we're going to do a co-production. That means we're keeping your voice, but then you have to be in this delicate balance of knowing your vision, but being open to collaborate.
Hello. Hello there. Dalawa ba?
Euro.
Euro tayo. Euro perfect. Hello.
House Capias.
Oo na ako.
You're European today.
Yes. Euro beso.
Yes. Oh, coffee and water.
All right. Filipino stories are finding new homes around the world. And co-production is the biggest reason why, when cultures, industries, and visions come together, something powerful happens. Welcome to Season 2 of Behind the Reel. I'm Perci Intalan, and in this episode, we explore how co-productions are shaping partnerships, creativity, and the global future of Filipino filmmaking. Joining me today are three industry trailblazers. Ms. Bianca Balbuena, Achinette Villamor, and Mr. Fredo Manalang. Welcome. Welcome to the show. You're very formal today. Because, we're producers. You're supposed to be respectable.
Yeah.
Or we're used to the behind the scenes.
We're used to being behind the scenes and reading the scripts and the call sheet.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's zoom out for a moment, okay? Co-productions aren't just about funding anymore. They're about shaping visions. So let's start big. What makes co-productions more relevant now more than ever? Bianca, you first.
I don't know if this answers the question, but I think it's really the best time, contrary to popular belief, I think it's the best time to be a filmmaker and a producer in Southeast Asia today. And I think it's the best time to do co-productions today. Why? Because 10 years ago, probably, we only depend on Europe. But now, in the Philippines, you have the support from FDCP. You have location incentive support. So when you shoot here, you get rebate. We didn't have that before. And then neighboring countries in Southeast Asia, we also have, we can also get support. So I think it's the best time to co-produce in the region. And it's always my immediate go-to when I have a film and I'm like, oh, I have to do a co-production. And I do a traditional co-production because I want to minimize the risk of equity, of recoupment. Because if you have let's say if you have 60% of the financing via public grants, it's free money, you don't have to recoup it.
Yep.
So you have more leeway to be more artistic, to be very pure to the art, to the director's vision. And you have very less stress on recouping the investment. So it's always my immediate response to a project,
Okay.
a co-production.
How about you, Achinette?
Building on what Bianca said, when even Putin says of Russia, says the future is in Asia, that makes you sit up and pay attention. And again, building on what she said, that now it's never been a better time to be an Asian, a Southeast Asian producer and filmmaker. Everyone has this sense of Europe is dead. I mean, they've been saying this a long time, but now more so than ever because of changes in policy, especially in their public funds. and everyone is saying the next big thing is somewhere in Asia. And in fact, they are building capacities in Asia, which didn't happen before. When you want good sound, good coloring, you go elsewhere. You go to Europe, especially. But now people are saying, okay, let's go to Asia for these things that we normally needed the US and Europe for.
How about you, Will? You have one foot in Asia, one foot in North America. Do you feel the same way?
I feel the same way, but I think a lot of it is risk management. Just like what Bianca said, at the very end, it's the world is a little different now, especially in terms of filmmaking. There are challenges, especially regarding funding and financing. So, in order to compensate that, I think co-production is more relevant now than before. Because usually studios can make their own films and stuff like that. Like even here in the Philippines, right? So Legal can make their own, and ABS does their stuff. But now even locally, people co-produce with each other.
Yeah.
It's like ABS, GMA. Who would have thought they would make a
Yeah.
film together?
Yeah.
And now they're actually doing it. So I think the whole notion of co-production is not just international, but it's also local. Because now the risk is higher in terms of recoupment and stuff like that. So I think the international aspect of it helps a little bit in terms of how we spread the territories or reach outside of the Philippines. So the risk is, compensated in a way, so we have better sales outside than inside, stuff like that. So I think it's important, aside from being the Asian side of it, but it's also important for us to be making films that can travel outside. So I think that's the idea.
I think the common denominator is the managing of risk.
Yeah.
And working together, even you mentioned even locally, that's what happens. So people need to find partners. But the problem with partnerships, it's naturally, they come with a push and pull.
Yeah.
So how do you balance now creative freedom with the realities of partnership and what your partners want versus what you want? Will, you first. You mentioned it.
Yeah, it's a little hard, especially if you're talking about international co-production. So, like for example, I've worked with Japan, France, and Philippines in terms of a co-production. The culture is a little different from each other. Japanese is very strict. They're very into the books and very anal in some ways. And the French is a little relaxed how they deal with things. So I as a third party coming from looking at it from outside, I could see the different styles of how they do the business. And the Filipinos come in, it's like we're used to navigating this stuff, like we're used to adjusting to how people work, and we're kind of flexible as a culture. And I think they appreciate that, because we don't add fuel to the fire if there's a fire, So, but if there's, but at the end of the day, you all have one objective, and that's to make the film and make a good one. And that works in a way because you have similar goals. So.
Okay. How about you, Achinette, for creative freedom that I guess,
We've been very lucky in that creative freedom has never been an issue in our co-production, because we've co-produced 8 times with a German co-producer, Rapid Eye Movies. And Rapid Eye is well known for auteur-driven transgressive cinema. So even before, for example, in Europe, even before Asian cinema became hip, Rapid Eye Movies has been distributing the Shinya Tsukamotos, the Takeshi Kitanos, the Park Chan-wooks, before these names became big, Shah Rukh Khan. Balancing the business side and the creative side has never been a problem for us, because we've been lucky in finding a German co-producer who, before he started producing films, is a distributor well known for bringing Asian cinema, auteur-driven transgressive cinemas, to German-speaking territories. For example, Shah Rukh Khan, Takeshi Kitano, Takashi Miike before he became very big. And so when he went to Kevin for a collaboration, he already knows that this is the voice he wants. So balancing the creative with the business side has never been a problem for this reason. In fact, you could even say that he, more than me, safeguards Kevin's voice because it's exactly what he wants.
So Kevin actually gets more support from
Yes. Like me, I want to play it safe, but our German co-producer, he always says, "Can you push this more? Can you, more,
Because
more."
Kevin is a brand.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So we're lucky in that respect, and since it's an 8th film ongoing relationship, so it's safer that way. Because you don't have to get each other's temperaments and tempers. You already know where you stand.
How about you, Bianca? You've got what's your record? 7 countries working in one.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so
or 8 or
complicated.
9.
I work on a Vietnamese film. We co-produce with 7 countries. I think I always work, I work with filmmakers who know the expectations. So when we start a project with, let's say, Lav or the auteur Trung Minh Quy, or even Ray Red or Kenneth Nagatan, I tell them, okay, we're going to do a co-production. That means we're keeping your voice, but then you have to be in this delicate balance of knowing your vision, but being open to collaborate. So they know, even auteurs like Lav, they listen, and they know what they want, they know their goal, but also they listen and they respect your voice as a producer. But also, if you work with, let's say, a streamer or a studio, you have to manage expectations of your directors. You ask them, okay, so we're going to work with a streamer, and in the end, they have the last say on the creators. Are you okay with that? Before we start with anything, are you okay with that? And if they say yes, then you have to stick to that also. Because in the end, if it's a commissioned work, you really have very little control. And in Epicmedia, my company, we really balance, not naman balance, but it's like 40% commissioned work because we have to survive.
We all
and
have to survive,
we have to be
yes.
sustainable. And then 60% is, of course, the traditional co-production where there's more risk, but there's more fulfillment.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Can I add something into
Yeah.
this conversation? Because, like, I started my company to push for Asian representation, for example, like that. So I love the idea of starting co-production in development phase because you're in there working with the script and working with the directors and stuff like that. And if there is some Filipino representation in the script or the project, I try to make sure that the representation is there and there's actually truth to that whole topic or whatever character that they have. So, I like the idea for them, the directors, for example, listen to those input, and I think that's an added, beauty of having a co-production because sometimes they have this perception of what Filipinos are and what we do and stuff like that. So, but when you start inputting and giving them your thoughts on those subject in the script level, it's nice whenever they listen to you, and it's nice to bring it out. And sometimes they get so interested, the topic is actually expanded than what they originally had. So that's a beauty of it.
So let's discuss how you got started. No? What inspired you to explore co-productions in your productions?
So for me, I started FUSEE as a company when after the pandemic. So after the pandemic, I was trying to figure out what I want to do, and I was inspired because I didn't see myself when I was binging films in Netflix and all these streaming services in the US. So I said to myself, like, why am I not doing films that actually represent me? So I started one, and I started with a film called Plan 75. Allenberg Ang actually showed me a script, and he told me, he's like, hey, this is a Japan, French, Philippines co-production. Is there something you want to add into this? So after reading the script, and there's a really nice Filipino character in it, so I said, oh yeah, I want to do it.
Well, your start in Cannes.
So I started in Canada, yeah.
First
So it's a big, I was lucky, and that started, how the ball started, and And now I work with a Vietnamese film called Don't Cry Butterfly. It's totally Asian co-production. And I just finished a Canadian-Philippine co-production. So, but a lot of it is because I wanted to make sure there's some Filipino or Asian representation in the stuff that we make.
How about you, Achinette? What was your first ba?
My first co-production was Mondo Manila. But it wasn't, I wouldn't say inspired. What inspired, because it's almost as if it's by design. I fell into it by accident because Mondo Manila went fast. I didn't really feel the hard labor pains of co-producing in the beginning with a new co-producer. And so in the second one, because it went pleasantly, and so Stefan said, okay, what is your wish list for your next film? He said this to Kevin. And Kevin said, oh, can you get Christopher Doyle for me? And then he got Christopher Doyle for Kevin. Can you get Tadanobu Asano for me? And he got us Tadanobu Asano. And so we were like, oh, there are possibilities here, because then the great thing about a foreign co-producer is that it opens the world for you.
Anything is
Whereas
possible.
before, your box is this small, and then you find a champion, essentially a co-producer. I think many people do not know this. A co-producer is essentially your biggest champion in another territory outside your country, right? And so that opened our eyes by accident to the possibilities that are out there, to the talent that we could invite. And so, because we got our wish list, the wish list kept expanding. And at the time, Post Tenebras Lux was just was going around. And so Kevin said, can you get me the actress? And so we got Natalia Acevedo also on board. And because of that, we were like, oh, okay, maybe there is something with co-production.
Achinette did not find the co-producer. She found the genie in the bottle.
Yeah.
What's your wish list?
Oh, yes.
3 wishes. How about you, Bianca? How did you get started? Parang you've always been established in the co-production realm. Eh?
I think I would call myself an accidental producer. I remember I was AD, dialogue translator, and PM for Pepe Diokno's thesis film, Encuentro, which in the end, UP didn't accept it. Then after that, we got into Venice, Horizonte via blind submission. And I remember in Cinemalaya, we didn't win anything. It was just a special mention, like just mentioning us, which is okay. And then so we went to Venice, and people were asking Pepe, so what's your next film? Do you have a producer? And Pepe's like, do you want to produce? Or since you're with me here, do you want to try? I said, I don't have money. Because in the Philippines, when you say producers, we think of them as money people. And Pepe's like, I don't think it's about money. Look at this. Every film Q&A, there's this person here who is not the director, but talks about the creative process of the film. Do you want to be that person? I said, yes, of course. I want to be the person who's like a mother to the film, but doesn't have all the responsibilities of a director. So then, we're like, okay, let's open up a company. We put up Epicmedia. And then, of course, he got busy with ads. That's where the money is. So I continued doing film and co-production. But gone are the days where we have to do films for 1M, 2M.
Oh, yes.
Like Cinemalaya, Cinema One. I remember I was doing a Cebuano film, Aberia. And then we were like, oh, we need...
Is it Christian Linaban?
Christian Linaban.
Yeah.
We need one more day, and we don't have money. So I was like walking around Tiendesitas. I checked my ATM. Oh my God, we need 50K. I only have 42K in my ATM.
You were a student when you did this 42K?
Just graduated.
Okay.
No, I was ADing already.
Okay.
I was ADing Gerald Tarog's films already. So yeah, parang, we survived
I'm curious
those
about that
years.
because I'm working with Tay Acierto, and you were an
Assistant
AD?
director
Yeah.
in Grave Bandits.
So what made you switch from AD to producer?
Do you know that Army Kakanindin, one of the biggest producers now, and also me, we're both AD of Tay Acierto's.
Army was our AD on EDSA XXX, which was produced on a 1 million grant from Cinema
How do we
One.
do that now?
That's the big question.
This is a big question, and Kevin and I, we often talk about this, like, ang luho-luho na natin ngayon, ano?
Yeah.
But, and And some people say, I think that the future should also hold space for smaller films
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
these are the less stressful films to make. You have complete creativity because you don't have to pay anyone.
Exactly.
Back, you just pay your crew and then
And less pressure
Yeah,
to
yeah,
recover
less
the
pressure.
money,
you
right?
can just unleash yourself creatively. But these are the
Yeah.
budgets that we had to work with
Yeah.
before. Like everyone.
Like Mondo Manila, how much was that? If you don't mind me asking.
And what year was
Smaller.
this?
Because I remember that movie. It's
Smaller.
it's a classic film,
Yeah.
and like everybody,
Smaller. Actually, Mondo Manila, it's interesting that when you co-produce and you find champions elsewhere, it led to more opportunities. So now it's Mondo Manila led to Alipato, and because of Alipato, we got to co-produce with an institution in German cinema, Alexander Kluge. Like we had academics panicking, "What? You're collaborating with Alexander Kluge?" We didn't know who he was. He just watched, because this is again the good thing about having a co-producer is that your film ends up in spaces you don't even know about.
Yeah.
And so he watched Mondo Manila, and then that led to us creating Alipato, again with Stefan co-producing. And then Alexander Kluge watched Alipato, fell in love with it, said, let's do something together. And so he made Happy Lamento, and that led to a 2-film collaboration between Kevin and...
Nice.
So I love these stories of happening to fall into...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing,
producing
right?
and- yeah.
Because if you find a co-producer that I guess is the right fit, it all works out.
Yeah.
But how do you know? Like, for instance, Bianca, you work with a lot of co-producers. How do you know if that co-producer is the right fit for you?
I've had my baptism of fire in my first international co-production. But also, I blame myself because, right now, you have a community of producers. You can easily ask anyone, and you have workshops you can attend to learn about co-productions. But before, you were on your own. And then a French producer comes and says, I want to co-produce your film. And you think like, oh, he's going to give money. You don't set expectations. You don't say like, give me your financial plan. I want to see how you're going to raise money. You didn't have that before. But now it's easy. I mean, not easy, but now it's
You can ask
easy
around.
to ask. Yeah, you have
Well,
a community.
You were one of the trailblazers, so you were the person that we
I know,
ask now, right? How about you, Will? I mean, have you had any experiences where it wasn't quite the right fit?
So far, I'm so lucky that it worked. But every project is different, and you
Yeah.
have a different co-producer most of the time. It's more of a relationship thing than anything else. I have to trust the co-producer before I actually, say yes to one.
It's a marriage.
Yeah, because it
Spend
takes 2 or
years.
3 years at the most. It's
Yeah.
like working with the same person, and you don't know them until you actually work with them.
Yep.
Because we go to markets, we go to the parties, and we meet some of these people, and those are just glimpses of who they are. But once you start working with them, you get to know how they work, and sometimes it doesn't match. But when it works, like for example, Eiko Mizuno Gray, I worked with her in Plan 75, and now we're working on a new one, and the relationship is building because we kind of like each other, we kind of understand how we work, so now we're continually working together. So, but there are people like, I think that's the last time, or something like that,
Yeah, see,
once you release the film, you have a premiere. It's like, okay,
Okay, thanks, bye.
next time.
we all have horror stories.
Yeah.
I just don't know if we can talk about
How I wish we could talk
I know,
about
so I don't wanna-
it later.
I only have a few.
Yes.
Look at like already think about it.
Well, here's the thing, right? Because a lot of co-productions, I mean, let's face it, there are co-productions that favor foreign filmmakers, with the exception of a few, like recently, like Diamonds in the Sand, had a Filipino filmmaker, and there are a lot of other projects. But how can these collaborations, like how do you steer the collaborations so that they become more profitable, beneficial to our Filipino creatives?
I feel strongly about this, by the way.
Okay.
I'll premise.
All right.
Okay, so because you say how can we structure co-productions in that they are more beneficial to Filipino creatives? And the reason I say I feel strongly about this because there's a very delicate tension when you say co-producing versus outsourcing. Because for example, a foreign co-production could just fly into the Philippines and all the above the line crew, it's all theirs.
Yeah.
And then
like film servicing.
yes,
Yes.
film servicing. No, and some people consider this co-producing. You just get to
No,
slap
yeah.
on your logo. And I feel strongly about this because it's colonialism 2.0. I mean, they're just extracting resources from us.
Yeah.
So I consider if it's just about the spreadsheet, then it's not co-producing. You'd be a tourist in the Philippines, not a co-producer. And so it has to have a Filipino voice. Will was saying something about representation. Aside from representation, does it make sense to shoot it here? Because often, if the Philippines is just the backdrop, but it's a completely American story, say, then that's film servicing.
Yeah. That's why there's a difference in FDCP funds.
Yeah.
The flip is for film servicing, and of course the. But then here's the case: when you apply, when a film servicing company, when a company comes here in the Philippines and then they want to do film servicing, they hire you. You're just a line producer. But then you apply for flip and you get money.
And then you
That
become
means you raise financing.
Yeah.
So are you just a line producer or are you now a co-producer?
you become upgraded.
Yeah. And then
because you brought money.
You brought money
a
via
personal
state funding,
stake,
and then
yeah.
you have a personal stake. But also, if it's not a Filipino story, if they're just sometimes there's this project that approached me, a Dutch-Indonesian project. They want to shoot in the Philippines to look like Indonesia. I say, okay, why not? We apply for flip. It hasn't been done yet. We apply for flip, and then we can help the Filipino staff, Filipino crew, give them livelihood. But then I can't be a co-producer even if I raise financing via flip because I don't have creative stakes. I don't know so much about Indonesian history, no? So it's always also a question of how you position yourself.
But I guess it ultimately there are two levels now. Like as you said, there's servicing, which is at least you provide jobs, at least you give exposure, right? And hopefully shared learning. But there are projects where you can get to steer, you have a more creative say.
Yeah.
I think other countries, if I may, have a guardrail. For example, to qualify for it to be a co-production, they have to meet the following conditions. I don't know if we
Point system. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, this is how they determine is it a co-production or
Certain
are you
level
just
of creative
outsourcing?
staff,
Yes.
creative voice.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's not just because you work with a foreign company, then that's automatically a co-production.
Like just to add to that, because I had a co-production. It's called Don't Cry Butterfly. It's totally Vietnamese director and a Singaporean producer. But I got into the whole picture because a lot of their inspiration is coming from the Philippine folklore, especially the aswang and the whole idea of aswang. And how the Filipino creativities came into the picture is through the VFX, SFX, all that stuff is Filipino, and we actually flew those artists there. So Malas Malas, for example, was the VFX group that did it. So it feels like an outsourced thing, but for me, we're giving jobs to the Filipinos, and hopefully they get recognized outside of the country. Like it's not just shooting here, but it's also pushing our talents outside. So for me, that's one way to look at it.
So there's a lot for us to discuss, but let's hold that thought. The global journey of Filipino stories is just unfolding, and our producers have a lot more to share. Stay with us for the next part of this episode, only here on Behind the Reel Season 2. So, ayan na.
It's so hard to convince people because it's either it becomes a success or it becomes a mistake.
The German co-producer, he forces us to go to the editing room 8 a.m. until at night, and he's very strict. Like, you cannot take a break just because you want to take a break.
But when the money gets involved, how do you balance that? How do you manage the creative and business sides of your project when you've got a co-producer?
Ayaw sumagot.
I want to say nawawala yung interest ng mga Filipinos to watch our own, which is sad.